Hmm. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Okay. Oh, that's such a cute cat, Lumina. Look at that. Hold him up so we can all see. Oh, so cute. All right. So we're working in this text right now of trying to understand if we're going to try to see emptiness directly. We first have to establish what we're seeing the emptiness of. And so there's lots of wrong things that people try to see emptiness about. And so what Pabonka is trying to do here is to define all the different wrong ways that we can go about that are subtly incorrect so that we can then determine what is the thing we're actually trying to establish has emptiness. And of course, when we say, oh, everything has emptiness, great. But what does what is the thing empty of? So to be able to get to that experience, we have to determine what really has the emptiness and what are approximations, or I would even say like in a lot of ways, I think they're also steps. Like there's steps to get to it. They're not necessarily it, but we have to understand what it's not to understand what it is, even though to say emptiness is something would be a contradiction to. Because we're trying, emptiness is an absence. It's an absence of something that you thought was there. So now we have to determine what you think is there properly so that you can then deny what's not there so you can get to emptiness. Like what is actually not there? That's the big question. And that's why so many people misunderstand emptiness, and bad teachings on emptiness abound, are um, quite frequent, right? And it's hard to really get at what it is and what it's not. Rather, what you thought was there, what is it that you think is there? And to properly identify that so then we can properly deny it and get to an experience of emptiness that can help us transform everything. So, yeah, that's where we are. And we're going to review a little bit of where we left off last time. So then we can, it's always good to keep reviewing it over and over again. So the first method that Pabonka brings up for us of what we're, when we learn about, oh, we're going to deny what's not there. We're going to find the gotcha, find the thing that we thought that there is there that's not, the thing that we imagined was there. And then from understanding what we imagine, then we can unimagine it, basically. We can dissolve it. We can withdraw it. But we have to know what we're withdrawing. Like when we say withdraw all appearances into emptiness, like what does that mean? Like, do we just withdraw it into nothingness? Do we just withdraw it, like, oh, well, nothing is there. So that's what emptiness is. Emptiness is black, 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 nothing, like the absence of everything. Is that what we mean? Is it just something that's not there, right? Like a chair that's not in the room, or a person that's not in the room, right? Or a two-headed purple elephant that's not in the room. Is that what we mean by emptiness? Like this room is empty of a delicious breakfast, right? Like, is that what emptiness is? So we have to understand what everything is not. Again, we have to cancel all the wrong ideas. So then we can get to the correct idea. Um, and if you have the wrong idea of emptiness, it won't help you. And worse, if you teach it incorrectly, and then other people get wrong ideas, you know, the karma is heavy if you teach it incorrectly. Like I get nervous teaching it. I'm like, shit, am I going to say something wrong? And sometimes I realize I say something incorrect and I have to go back and adjust it. But that also shouldn't dissuade you from teaching either. Right. Well, what if I don't understand it completely, Tim? That's fine. Just tell people that you don't understand it completely and you're doing your best. That's why we rely upon the mastery of others, right? You know, that's why we're relying on a translated text. I don't have to say it. That's just what the master said, right? And if you trust that the master has a good understanding, you know, at least we say it correctly. And on top of it, saying it correctly doesn't mean that it's emptiness either, because emptiness is not the words. Emptiness is an absence, right? It's an absence of something you thought was there as identity. And that's what we talked about in ACI 15 just an hour ago. It's an absence of identity. It's not a simple absence of like a lack of a chair in the room or a lack of a feeling or something like that. Right? It's a you identified it as something that it's not. You identified it as something that has a nature of its own. You identified it as something coming from its own side. You identified it as having some kind of essence, definitive essence. And if we can establish what all those are, then you can cancel that to get to emptiness. So the first wrong idea, which isn't a bad idea, is that, hold on. I couldn't find exactly what I wanted, but it's close. I was kind of imagining a really nice tea kettle, right? That has a nice little spout on it where the water comes out. But the best thing I could do was a little Italian espresso maker. Okay. So we have this pitcher, right? And it has certain qualities, right? It has a handle, right? It has a top here. It has a spout, right? Where the water or the espresso can come out, right? It has its body. It has a base, right? It has all of those things. So those are the various parts. So here's the first stupid idea. Okay. But it's not actually that stupid, but it's a good way to start. So let's take the pitcher, right? Let's take the espresso maker. All right. And let's think about it not in terms of the one that you're seeing with your eyes, but the one that you see in your mind. Okay, because we do all this work actually in meditation, right? You don't see emptiness directly by like staring out at the mountains. Okay, like you get into a deep state of meditation. But so you're in a state of meditation and you're having a look at this espresso cup, this espresso maker, right? And so in your mind, you have an image of this, like the idea, perfect coffee cup, or excuse me, perfect espresso maker, right? And then you can see it, like in your mind, you actually see the perfect one. You see the whole thing, right? So then the first thing you say is, all right, this part, the spout here, is not the espresso maker. Okay, right? So you say, okay, well, this little element, right? This element right here is not the espresso maker. Well, that makes sense, right? Because this is just a segment of it, right? This is not the whole thing. If you just took the spout off of it, would you have an espresso maker? No, right? What about the top, like this little top thing, right? Maybe you could get away with not having it, but then the espresso would like, spew out as it's like being cooked or something, or as it's being boiled, right? But the top here, right? What about the handle, right? You know, is the handle the pitcher? Is the handle the espresso maker? Right? What about the base? Right? Is the base the espresso maker? Right? Is it? What about the filter? Right? What about the empty container? Right? What part of this is the pitcher? Is the espresso maker? Right? And then you kind of go through that, and then you're like, you start canceling every single part, not the base, not the filter, not the cap thing, not the spout, not the handle. You start canceling every single one of those. Not not a single part of that espresso maker is the espresso maker. Are we good so far? All we're doing is canceling the parts. Okay. Which sounds like we're getting to an absence, right? We're trying to find where is the espresso maker in this object. Okay. Right. Where is it? Right. But let's get rid of all the things that aren't the espresso maker, right? Well, the spout, the handle, the top, the base, the filter. Each one of those things is not the espresso maker. And so, because you couldn't find the espresso maker in the parts, right? Therefore, you have arrived at emptiness. Because you couldn't find the espresso maker in the parts, then you go and start meditating on that because you canceled everything that you thought was the espresso maker, and that was emptiness, right? You arrived at an absence. You went looking for, you started with the object and you went looking for it. You went looking, no problem. Well, where is espresso maker? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? And eventually you're like, nope, I can't find it. Like I can't figure out where that is. And based on that understanding, you think that's emptiness and then you meditate on it. Okay. Is that an absence? Well, yes, it is a type of absence. Like the espresso maker is not in its individual parts. Is that emptiness though? And what I mean by that is it's a type of emptiness, it's a type of absence, but is it an absence that's going to be able to transform your mind and the world? And the answer to that is no. Is it a useful exercise for you to start trying to understand where the espresso maker is? The espresso maker that you thought was there. Well, yes, it is. It's helpful. We're not saying it's not a helpful exercise, but it's not emptiness. Like go in your mind and start looking for where things are. And then you won't be able to find them because in the individual parts, they're not there. What you thought was there is not there. Is that emptiness? No. But is it helpful? Yes, it's very, very helpful. You know, and so that's like our first act there of trying to find the picture. And you're like, well, you canceled all the pieces, you canceled all the parts, and all the parts didn't have it. So therefore, the picture, the espresso thingy is not there. So therefore, that's emptiness. And then what we learned is that that space is actually an overestimation of reality, right? There's two extremes. There's the extreme that thinks that everything is self-existent. And then the extreme of the other side of it is that nothing exists. Right. So there's a danger, and it's really beautiful. Like I never understood this. It took me a long time to get it. Is that there's a danger when we study emptiness of falling into a place where nothing exists, nothing matters, nothing is there. Right. Because we say all those things. Even the Buddha said, well, nothing, no ears, no eyes, no mouth, no tongue, no feelings, no nothing. Right. There's nothing. Right. And so then people misappropriate it, and your mind does and goes, well, okay, this is not self existent. Right. Great. Why? Well, if I take all the individual parts and cancel them, what do I have left? Nothing. Right. And that's nihilism. Okay. That's the extreme. That goes way too far. Like try to find, but it's not a bad thing. Like when you hear it all the time, like where is you? If you cut off your finger, are you still you? Right? Is the you in your finger? Is the you in your ears? Is the you in your nose? Is the you in your knees? Right? Like what? Like if you did the exercise, we've done this in other classes, right? If you do the exercise of cutting off your body, please don't do it. I'm not suggesting it. It's not a spiritual practice. Don't quote me. Don't send me to Instagram cancel hell by putting that up. It's not what I mean. Okay. If you were to do the exercise of cutting off your body parts, okay, to try to find yourself, at what point would you not be you anymore? Right? Like how many cells of your body do you need to have you? Like how many could you take away and still be you? Like how much blood could you drain from your body and still be you? Right? And it's a weird question, because if you look at it the other way, when did you become you? How many cells did you have to have in your body before you became yourself? Like how many divisions of your cells in utero did you have to have before you became you? Right? This is the argument of, between like someone who is 100% pro-life, They say, well, you started when you were a full cell and you just expanded into full you, so you were alive. Okay, I'm not arguing for abortion, but what I'm saying is go the other direction. This is what you have to do logically. Go the other direction. Cancel out all of your cells, right? At what point will you not be you anymore? Were you you when you were one cell? But then now that you're trillions of cells, could you reduce back to one cell? There's a point where you would stop cutting off your body because you'd be like, no, 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 there won't be a me if I do that. Right? Like do that exercise pretty quickly and you'll be like, well, I'm still going to need all those organs and I'm still going to need my brain, you know. So those are you now. You weren't you when you had one cell, or you were you when you had one cell, but now you have trillion, you can't be back to one. And you're like, huh, right? How were you one cell alive and now you're trillions of cells alive, but you can't go the other direction, but you went one direction? Is it only unidirectional? So like, where is it? This is not a question of abortion. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, where are you? When are you you? You see, like all the arguments make no sense. Protecting life makes sense. Okay, I didn't say don't protect life. Careful, don't cancel me on Instagram. Okay, didn't say that. And I'm not taking a stance, but I'm taking a stance on protecting life. Okay. But where, like where? So the question of trying to find you in the parts, if you cancel all of your parts and arrive at that absence, is that emptiness? No, right? It's not. But is it useful to do the exercise to go try to find yourself in which cell of your body is the essential you? Were you essentially you when the sperm and the egg came together? Right? Or did you become you when that cell became two cells or 10 cells or 500 million cells or 10 trillion? Like which one? Which one is you? And which ones can you take away now? Right? So if you took all of those things away, where would you be? Well, there's not a me then, right? Because I took everything away. Therefore, there's no me. Therefore, that's the extreme. It's too far. You went too far. But it's useful because we think that we're in our body. Like, well, I feel like I'm in my body. I can sense my body. I can feel it. I can suffer with it. We're a big bag of suffering. Yes. Right. We get old, we get sick. Right. I'm experiencing that. Right. Fine. But that's not what we're actually canceling. Let's find out what we're going to cancel. And this means we have to read something. Okay. Who would like to be the first victim? First picture that comes up is Maria with two eyes, not the Y.
I suppose it's me.
It is you, yes.
Tongshi di Tengdu Gecha
Gotcha.
Gakcha. Gakcha didrashik go serbuenam. Che me pe
Yeme.
ye me pe. Wum pe ta. Ne. Ne
Mm-hmm.
shik. Ne chang me ki tong par. Shorwadang. Lo ye ki tong pe go sa che.
Nice reading.
Thank you.
Okay, so what happens here is if we do all of that, right? If we fall short, I just said all this, but we're just going to um, review it, right? If we deny all of those things, okay, and we have that picture, that boompa, right? We have this espresso maker, and we do all of that just by canceling out all of its parts, right? Then we have there's a big danger here. All right. Hold on a second. Am I in the right section? I am not in the right section. That's why I'm having a hard time. Hold on. The funny thing is, like, I'm reading this paragraph and I'm like, this is what it's saying. And then I'm reading my translation. I'm like, something's not right. I was reading my wrong translation. Oh, was it the wrong paragraph? That's why. That's what nothing was making sense to me. All right. So let me try this again. Everything I said was true, but it's nothing matched what I was saying. Okay. So the idea really here is that we need to have an indivisible object, Yewe Me. Okay. So in order to establish emptiness, you have to do it on a full object. Like you're going to be denying a full object, an indivisible object. Okay. So if we're arriving in emptiness as a kind of nothingness, right? Then what we're doing is we're actually destroying the concept, shik, destroy, tane concept of a pitcher. Okay. Or we're saying espresso maker, right? So what we're doing is that a method that denies that the pitcher is not a pitcher, reducing everything to nothingness, is something that comes up short because we need to have something that's indivisible, right? You have to have a full thing to deny, right? You can't have part of a thing and deny the part. You can't deny the whole by saying the part's not there. In a way, we can, but in the way that we're talking about it, you cannot. Because then you're focusing on the part not being there and you're not talking about the whole thing not being there. Right. And so what we do is we shorwa the concept of emptiness, right? And that we break it by saying that it's nothing whatsoever. Nothing. Emptiness is nothing whatsoever. Changmei. All right. And so if you think that emptiness is nothingness, that will, your mind, it'll make your mind, what's the word, good word here? Go astray, I think. Like you'll lead your mind to the point where it goes greatly awry. It goes the wrong direction. Kolsa means is like going in the wrong way. right? So this idea that canceling all the parts that aren't making the parts not the espresso maker basically takes us to a place of changmei, emptiness or nothingness. It makes emptiness nothing, and that sends us in the wrong direction. It's everything we just said, but now we have the translation of it. So, what do we need to do? Mike Hoffman, let us know what we need to do.
Morning. Tene rangre kapchan sowa na ngarnzin Lenkie ki nga rang shingi druparnzin sulze chugupe.
Nice. Let's see. I think you might be able to do this. Let's find out.
About that.
If you can't, it's okay. Tena.
In in that way.
In that way, like therefore, like so, like in that way, right? This is a great expression everyone should know. Wrong ray, and then wrong ray. It means basically us guys, those of us. Okay. And this sub makes it agentive, right? So us guys, like all of us. Why is this expression important right now? Who's all of us?
Pabonka and his students.
Pabonka and his students. And why is it important? What is being said right now? Why is he saying all of us? Any ideas? I mean, isn't he supposed to be the Lama? Isn't he supposed to be the like the one who knows everything? What why? Like why is he saying us guys? Do you think he's not a realized being? Do you think he's someone who doesn't know what the heck's going on? Why would someone who's clearly knows a lot about emptiness? I mean, and you will learn much later that the reason we study Pabonka now is because Pabonka is one of the primary commentators to our Vajragini sadhana, right? Someone who's a master Diamond Way practitioner, right? Why is he saying us guys, you and me? Right. I mean, I'm seeing in the chat here a little bit. I mean, it's part of it is like, you don't want to overestimate your capacity, right? But it's also saying, like, look, I'm just like you. We're doing this together. And you never know you never know who's, excuse me, you don't know who, damn it. You never know what realization that someone else has. You don't know who they are, right? Like it's not something that they wear on their shirt that says, I have seen emptiness directly. I mean, even if they told you that, like, how would you believe it? You know? And so part of it is saying, look, I'm just like you guys. I'm just trying to learn this myself. And we went through a whole long thing in my other text that I'm translating with Geshe Michael about Maitreya. Like, is Maitreya Buddha already? And if Maitreya is a Buddha already, why did he say in the beginning of the Abhisamaya Alankara that he's writing it for his own benefit, like the benefit in his own mind stream, like for his own benefit, so he can purify himself. That's what he said, to purify myself. Right? Well, if he's already a Buddha, why does the Buddha have to tell you that they need to purify themselves? Right? Like, why would they need to tell you, yeah, I'm doing this for my own benefit, because I'm not there yet. Like, what? You're already a Buddha. What the hell are you doing? And I think there's many reasons why, and I think it's also a teaching on, how to be humble as a teacher. What makes you any better than anybody else? Like, and that's the quickest way to lose. I think. I think it's the quickest way to like lose the karma to help other people is by thinking that you're better than them. And I think it's a human thing. Like somehow we are the hero of our own story. Like even those people that have, I would say, have self-worth difficulties, lower self-esteem, there's probably something in there that they have as a pride in their self, right? I also think sometimes low self-esteem is a form of pride as well. But the point here is that, look, he's saying, look, you and me, us guys, us people, I'm just reporting to you what I know. All right. And I'm working on it myself. Whether he is working on it himself is a total different issue, but that's not the point here. The point is like, look, he's approachable, I would say. Right. So what he's saying here is like, us guys, here we are. You and me, we need to investigate. When we investigate, when we investigate soba the gacha, right? When you and me were trying so desperately to find the thing that is to be denied. Okay. Right. So what he's saying here is that Len can mean innate, right? The innateness, like the thing that's like, if we remember when we studied the 7 steps of Maitreya, of how you start having negative emotions, like this is it. Like innately, you already, just because you have a mind, naturally, it's difficult to say naturally, but automatically, that might be a good way of translating Lenke. Automatically, it's already automatically built in. Lenke, holding to the self. Okay. Automatically, you are already grasping to a self. Right? Which thinks that it exists through some nature of its own. It's a self, a na. Okay, here we are. The automatic built-in programming that holds to a self. Like your operating system, your Lenke, your operating system is holding to itself. What is it doing, right? We need to examine the way that it holds to itself. We must se examine, right? What are the roots of those words? Se say is like a root, right? Che means to cut, right? But a se che together is like you're cutting, like you're basically like dissecting to the root, right? You're getting to the core You must get to the core, seche, of the way that you hold to yourself. And what is that core? Na Rangshin Kidrupa. The self that believes that it has a nature of its own. Okay. So this is incredibly, we're hitting it over and over and over again. Like you're going to keep hearing it. But we do this automatically. Our operating system is built in already. And I'm going to write down operating system in my notes here. Right. It's like breathing. When you come out of the womb, you already know how to breathe. Like no one has to tell you, Tashi, breathe. Hurry up, right? You don't like then squeeze it and go breathe, right? Sometimes you have to help the baby, but generally, like they just know how to breathe, right? You don't tell the baby's heart to beat, right? It just goes boom, 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 boom. It's beating the blood, right? Same thing. Like it's so built in and automatic that you don't even have to think about it, which is what's the problem, right? But we have to examine and get to the root of how we think it has some nature of its own. All right. How do we perceive it the wrong way? Anastasia. Next line.
Lo hlenke langai nei nan su ton sin su chitar duk tak pana pumpoi tena semki takpa chaminpar pumpo chokpe tenne sur trukpa tawui no.
Nice, 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 nice. So the way that it appears, right? Nangsu, the way that it appears to the self, or which is the self, the way the self appears to the mind automatically, the mind in its natural state, right? In its natural environment, okay? The way that it appears and the way that that self is grasped to by that natural state of mind, we need to do takpa. Takpa is examine. Duk is kind of an emphasizer to the verb. So in this way, it's makes stronger. So it's like we need to thoroughly examine, like deeply examine the way that it holds to it in the way that it appears, right? So holding and appearing are different. And then we'll figure out why in a moment. Okay, what does that mean? So, how are we going to do this? Here's this self, right? Make sure I have this correctly. Okay, so first, we have to thoroughly examine this. So firstly, what we don't see, what we don't perceive, minpa, we don't see that the self is merely projected, like takpa, merely projected by the mind onto the body, onto our parts, onto our heaps, onto our body and mind. Okay. So when we examine how it is that the self appears to our mind in its natural state and how that self is grasped to by that natural state of mind, we see that we don't even perceive at all how it's being projected onto our body and mind. That idea of self, we don't even have a clue or an inkling. We don't even have a suspicion that that self is being projected onto the body and mind, that it is the body and mind. right? It's not even that there's a self that's separate that then goes, okay, that's my body and mind, right? We just say, oh, the self, we don't even see that the self is that, right? And then the next line is what I just said. Is the self perceives itself independently within the collection of the body and mind. It sees it almost on top of, right? And so what you're seeing here is this is the subtlety. You have na and you have ne, right? We don't even see that when it is the body and mind, right? We don't even perceive that as a projection. We see it's from or within, nesur, within. It gets established within nesur, the collection of the body and mind. Tang, which means on top of, in this way. So we see it as an independent self that exists within the body and mind. So even asking the question, which cell of your body are you in, is already wrong. Cut off your fingers, cut off your arms, cut off your legs, cut off your nose. Which part of you is in that? Go looking for yourself. Right? You're so looking for yourself because you think it's a pungpo sok. You think there's a self, and then there's a pungpo sok, the collection of the body and mind, the 5 heaps that you go into, like a soul. The soul, like the espresso is in the cup, right? You put it in there, and then that's what makes it the espresso maker. Right? So your soul comes transported down, and then gets sucked into your mom and dad are having sex and the sperm and the egg meet together. And upon that meeting, you go, that's going to be my body and mind. And then you go suck into those cells. And that's what makes life. That's what you think. Right? That's the concept of a soul, right? That's what you think. Right? So you establish the self on the basis of having a body and mind that you get plopped into it, sucked into it, choose it, something like that. Rather than seeing it as this body and mind as a projection of that self. That is what the self is. And that's why it's changeable. But secondly, that's why that whole method of canceling the individual parts doesn't work. As an exercise, it helps you understand this sort of the next step. But otherwise, you'll never get there. Because if you think the self is separate from the body and mind, in the sense of it's a projection, the self is the projection of the body and mind. Not that the self is projecting. Listen to the language. It's not a self that's projecting a body and mind. The self is the body and mind which is projected. By what? The language is impossible. Because if you say it's being projected, it's being put onto, it's imputed, whatever stupid word you use in translation. Dakpa, right? Imputed, put on some kind of basis, right? It's ascribed to a basis and blah, That's not it's not something that's ascribing. There's not a self that's ascribing onto a body and mind that's separate from the body and mind. Nor is it the body and mind too, but we'll get there in a second. We have to go through all the arguments first. Okay, but you have to think about that you're not the parts. You're not your finger. Correct. Cut off your finger. Are you still there? Yes. But if you cancel all of your body's parts, where was the self? You won't find it. Right. And it goes to that argument of the cell, like the single cell in your body after the sperm and egg met in a passionate exchange of romance, hopefully. Right. Were you there in that moment? Is that you? You know, the Abhidharma, like the Abhidharma view is that, you know, the you goes to a bardo body, and then you float around in limbo, you know, between lives. And then when you see, and all of a sudden you're attracted to your next life and you see your mother and father having sex, and you go, that's where I'm going. And then and you go into the womb, and then you get stuck there, right? The uterus is a one-way membrane. You can only go in, you can't go out. Once you get sucked in, you're there. And the only way out is birth. Right? It's just a way. It's just a way to help people understand it. You know, 40 days in the bardo, what? Why 40 days? Like Earth days, Mars days, you know, Jupiter days? How many days? Is it close to being accurate? Yes. Does it help you when someone has died and you're grieving? Yes. Can you talk to people in the bardo? Yes. Does the bardo exist? Yes. Does it exist that way? I don't know. If it's just a shift of perceptions, you know, I don't know. You got to think about it. Does your body die? Yes. Do you go on? Yes. Who goes on? What goes on? Oh, it's the dependent thing of your body from the mind only school that dies, but you go on, right? I'm not giving you the answer. You got to think about it. That's right, Trinity. Trinity agrees. Okay. But this is the crux of it right here, these two little lines. Okay. You don't see that you are the projection of your body and mind. But rather you see you within, on top of, Tengne Surdrupe, established, created on top of, or within the body and mind, the collection of all of that. And it feels that way too, right? It feels like there's a me, and then there's this mind, and then there's this stupid body that does stupid body things. And beautiful things too. Right? It can do beautiful things. It can, but it suffers. It's a suffering thing. It changes. This is the main problem, to move from one point of view to the other. All right, let's see what else we have to complain about here. Natalia, would you like to read?
Hello, teacher. Oh. Oh. I will try to read.
There is no try. Do or do not.
Nyampa Chintana Rok Buryan Chot Ki Chot Ki Chidla Milam Tun Chadulo
Chuk
Chuksuyotpa Deni ngar chinlan kiein.
Narsin Lenkeyen. Nice.
Lenkeyen.
That's nice. Okay, so this singular way of thinking, right? That is even in the minds of worms and insects. Okay. So even up through like this singular way of thinking in the minds up until even reaching to the most ridiculous creatures there are, like worms and insects, right? Even these small beings who seem inconsequential and insignificant, which they're not, right? But they don't seem to have much of a brain. They do, but even they have that, right? This exists, yupate, right? In the depths of their minds. Sun Chedulokchuk, right? It's held within the depths of their mind. Oops. Lochuksu is in the depths of their mind. Even when Sun Chedu, right? They are a milam, even when they're dreaming, right? So even when bugs and worms are dreaming, this singular thought, right, is held in the depths of their mind. And what is that singular thought? The ni? Narsen Lenke, right? This is what we call, right? The innate view of the self, or the installed operating system that holds to the self, right? Your default operating system. I think that's good. Default operating system. Windows 3.1, something like that. Okay. Many of you didn't even have, you're too young to know what Windows 3.1 is. Okay. So, but the point is that this innate thing that we have, singular way of thinking, even happens while we're dreaming. And bugs and worms and all creatures have it. All living beings have it. And even when they're Mila, right? When they're dreaming. So that's very exciting. All right. We're kind of done here. So we're going to be moving into a section now. There's 3 different ways that the self can be perceived. All right. And then we're going to see the one that's the most what we normally do, and then how we're going to actually go ahead and cancel that. Sweet. How about that? Another beautiful day of living LAMRIM. Okay, so on Thursday, we're not going to have class on Thursday because that's the day of my godfather's funeral. If you're coming for ACI 15, we will have ACI 15 Thursday morning, but we will not have this class because I will be engaged in those proper rituals that we need to go through. So, cool. So then we'll see you next week for the next class. And I hope you all have a really, really good week. Thanks for joining. And yeah, say goodbye to each other and see you soon.
Thank you for teaching.
Thank you, teacher.
Everyone.
Grazie.
Love you.
Thank you, Cinnamon, everyone.
Thank you so
Dio
much.
koyu.
Welcome.
Gracias,
Thank you.
Tin. May the force be with you.
谢谢老师，晚安。
谢谢老师，Thank you。
Bye.